Hey guys, good morning. Alright, so today in grammar, we are going to be working on being authors. Do you know what an author is? Yeah, an author is anybody that writes anything. If you've wrote a shopping list, if you've wrote a birthday card, if you've wrote a note to your mom, if you've wrote anything, you wrote in your diary, you wrote a chat to me, that makes you an author. It really does, because an author is just somebody that writes something. So we're going to get to be authors today, and we're actually going to try to get started on writing an actual story. Have you ever wrote a story before? Okay, good. If you haven't, it's okay, because I'm going to help you. All right, the first thing we have to do when we become authors is we have to plan. We have to make a plan of what you want to say. It always makes better if we stop and think before we start grabbing something and writing. We have to stop and think about it for a little while. That's a plan. We have to figure out what we want. Just like if you're going to write a shopping list, you have to sit and think, okay, what do I need? What am I going to put on this list? If you're going to write a chat to me, you have to think, okay, what am I going to ask her? What am I going to tell her? You have to do that. Whether you realize you're doing it or not, you are. So we're going to work on our plan today for our story. So a lot of the things we've learned in grammar are going to help us when we write, like learning to write good sentences and making our sentences sound a little bit better, having subjects and predicates. That's going to make our writing a lot better. So it's good that we've already learned all this great stuff about language and grammar, because we're going to use it today when we do our writing. So okay, to do today's lesson, you're going to probably need to have this video, which you've already found. Good job. And you're also going to need to probably go back into Teams. So like down here at the bottom of your screen, you probably still have Teams open. Like I've got Teams right here. I can click on it and see it brings it right up where I was talking to Nevaeh. You have Teams open already. So probably go back into Teams, go find your assignment, and I want you to pause this video and open up your writing plan. It's right underneath this video, okay? And it's going to open up something that looks just like this. Okay, when it opens it up, it should look just like that. And then you can go back to the video, go back to probably the internet where it's playing in YouTube, and go back and start the video. So I'm going to give you just a second to get back into Teams and go open up your writing plan. And it'll look like that, and then you'll be ready to replay the video, because you're going to need to have that and the video kind of playing at the same time, because we're going to talk about it and then I want you to go do it. We're going to talk about it and then I want you to go do it. So it's better if both of those things are open right now. So go ahead and pause me and go get your writing plan. Get it open on your computer, okay? Okay, you've got your writing plan? It's open? Okay, you'll probably see it down here at the bottom. It'll be in Microsoft Word, and I'm probably in the internet, even though my internet has something different. But I'm in the internet because you're watching this video on YouTube. But okay, so the first thing we need to do on this writing plan, I'm going to go ahead and switch to it. Of course, the first thing you're going to see here is if we're going to write a story, there were things that stories need to have. We've talked about this too in reading. Stories must have... They must have characters, they must have setting, and they've got a plot that has a problem and a solution. Every kind of story we've talked about so far this year has those things. They have characters in them, there's a setting of where they're at, there's a plot, which is just, hey, what's going to happen in the story, and we talked about how whether it's realistic fiction or a fantasy story, there's a problem and a solution. Every book we've done this year so far has those things. Big Red Lollipop did. My Rotten Red-Headed Older Brother did. Help did. And so did Why Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ears. They had those things. So, the first thing you're going to have to plan for, I'm going to go back to my camera real quick. The first thing you're going to have to plan for is you've got to try to figure out who is going to be in your story. And they can be real people that you know if you want to be, or it can be made up things. It can be animals, just like in the two stories that we read this week, Help and Why Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ears. It was about animals. They can be about animals if you want to. You can write a fantasy story that's going to be about animals. That's fine. It can be anything you want. This is your story. You are the author. You think of anything you want. Okay, anything you want. So go ahead and pause the video. And I want you to think of your characters. And when you think of your characters, I want you to come over here to your writing plan, and you're going to click, and it will let you type right on there. See? Although, of course, yours probably doesn't need to have, you're going to actually write real words. I'm going to go, when I was writing, it was underlining it, so I went up here and hit this button right here, and it made it quit underlining it because I didn't want to underline it anymore. But okay, pause the video and please write your characters, okay? Okay. You should have your characters wrote down on your writing plan. Whoever is going to be in your story, whoever it's going to be about, or whatever, it could be animals, they should be typed on your writing plan right now. If they are not, pause me again, go back to your writing plan and make sure that you've got that wrote down, okay? Okay. The next thing you have to plan, you have to figure out. You know who's going to be in your story, that's your characters. You've got to figure out your setting. Where are they going to be at? Like in Big Red Lollipop, they were at Rabina's house. In Help, they were in the woods. In My Rotten Red-Headed Older Brother, they were at home, and the fair, they were at different places. You can have different places. If you think your story is going to go somewhere else, you can put that down too. So think about, where are they going to be at? Are they in the desert? Are they in the middle of the ocean? Are they in Disneyland? It can be anywhere you want because, again, this is your story and you get to choose. Anywhere you want. And remember, realistic fiction and fantasy stories, which are what we're going to be writing, are made-up stories, so it doesn't have to be real. It doesn't even have to be a real place. If you want to call it, if Caden wants to call it Cadenville, he can put him in Cadenville if he wants to. It's his story and it's made up. If Nevaeh wants to put him in Nevaeh Town, she can put him in Nevaeh Town. It's her story. It can be anywhere you want. So go ahead and pause me. Go back to your writing plan. And over here in the setting, you are going to type, where are they at? If it won't go down, you can always hit enter and it'll go down to the next one. And yeah, write whatever you want to. I'm making up a word. But again, if it makes it underlined, you can highlight it with your mouse and then go click not to underline. It'll quit underlining it. But I'm hoping you're going to write real words. Right? Where are they going to be? That's your setting. Alright, you've got your setting. Alright, so you have already done quite a bit of planning. You've got characters and you've got a setting. Now you've got to kind of figure out, what do you want your story to be about? And it can be about anything you want. It's your story. But you've got to kind of think, what are those people or those animals in your story? What's going to happen to them? What's going to go on? What's happening? What's going to happen in this story? And that's called your plot. And a plot does not have to be very long. We talked about that when we talked about the characters and setting in the plot. It's usually just a couple of sentences. Just something real short. What is it about? Like in Help. Our story Help. Oops. I could do the plot really fast of that. It's about a mouse that falls in a hole and they have to try to figure out how to get it out. That was really fast. That's the plot. If I want to do the plot of Why Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ear, the plot really fast was, it's about some baby owls that die, or a baby owl that dies, and the mama owl won't wake up the sun because she's so sad that her baby died, and they have to try to figure out what happened and who killed the baby. Pretty fast. That's all that story was about. That's the plot. So try to think. And this might take you a little bit of time to plan this one. You're going to have to think. What do you want this story to be about? What kind of story do you want to tell? And the two different kinds of stories we're going to be either writing today is a realistic fiction story. Remember, realistic fiction means that it is a made-up story, but it could be real. There's real stuff happening. But a fantasy story is one that is so crazy and made up that it could never happen in real life. Like Help. Those animals can't talk. They can't help anybody out of a hole by tying sticks to each other's tails. That's not going to happen in real life. That's fantasy. In Why Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ear, it was fantasy because animals don't talk. They don't have meetings. That's not true. So you can either do a realistic fiction story, which means it's still made up, but it could be real stuff, or a fantasy story, which is just made up crazy stuff. And you get to pick. It doesn't matter to me if it's realistic fiction or fantasy. You're the author. But you have to try to think, what kind of story? What's going to happen to those characters? And just write me a couple of real quick sentences to tell me what it's going to be about. Okay? And you're going to write this in the what is the plot part. So you'll click down here and what is the plot. You can make it not have an underline if you want it to. And you're going to type, what is the plot? Just a really quick, really fast, what is this story going to be about? What are you going to tell me about in this story? Okay, do you have your plot? I know, this takes a lot of thinking and a lot of effort, doesn't it? It's not so easy to be an author. That's why this lesson it might take us some time, and we're going to work on it for a couple of days, so don't worry. But the next thing we got to figure out with our story is if pretty much any story that we write as an author, whether it's realistic fiction or fantasy, there's going to be a problem. That's pretty much any story. So you need to kind of think of what's the problem in your story, and you may be able to figure it out pretty fast. Just try to think, what's going wrong for somebody? Is something bad happening to somebody? Like when Mouse fell in the hole, that was a problem. When Mother Owl wouldn't wake up the sun, that was a problem. When Sauna wanted to come to the birthday party with Rubina, that was a problem. When Richard kept beating his sister at everything they did, and she so wanted to beat him, that was a problem. So all these stories had problems and solutions, but you've got to think, what could the problem be in your story? What could go bad for somebody, and what's going to go bad? So tell me what the problem's going to be. Don't just say something bad's going to happen. I need you to tell me what is going to happen. Don't just say something bad's going to happen, or they're going to have a problem. Well, I know that. Tell me what it is. So tell me exactly what the problem is going to be for these people. And it can just be a couple of sentences, and you're going to put it right down here in the problem part, of course. So you'll type down here, tell me what the problem is, and it doesn't have to be real super long. Just a couple of sentences, maybe just one sentence to tell me what's the problem going to be. And then the same thing in solution, you'll have to type and tell me what is the solution going to be. How are they going to fix your problem? Because that's part of being an author. You've got to kind of plan it out before you start writing. You kind of have to know what you're going to say. So we have to think, who's going to be in it? Who's my characters? Where are they going to be at? That's my setting. Kind of what's going to happen, and what's the problem and the solution. Because problem and solution is kind of part of the plot. It's going to be part of it. Because whatever's happening in your story is probably going to be the problem and the solution. So what problem's going to happen, and how are they going to fix it? That's your solution. How is it going to get better? Like in Help. Snake got her out of the hole. That made it better. Got him out of the hole. That made it better. Rubina talked her mom out of, making her sisters always go to other birthday parties. She kind of made her realize that that's not really a good idea. That fixed the problem. My rotten red-headed older brother, Tricia, finally beat him at riding the merry-go-round. She finally beat him at something, and that fixed the problem. He kind of thought she was kind of cool after that. What other story did we read? Oh, Why Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ears. When they finally were going to punish the mosquito for causing all the trouble, that made Mother Owl feel better, and it fixed the problem. So think, how is it going to fix the problem, okay? That's the solution. So I'm going to let you go back to your plan over here and try to work on getting it all filled in. If you are having trouble, you can send me a message, and I will do my best to kind of guide you and help you and try to help you think of some things. mom and dad, brothers and sisters, maybe they can help you think of some things if you're stuck. I know that's a lot of trouble for some kids. Whoops. There we go. Some kids just have trouble thinking of anything. But just use your imagination. It can be anything you want. There's no right or wrong. If you want a story about an elephant, make up a story about an elephant. If you want a story about your sister, write a story about your sister. There's no right or wrong on this. It can be whatever you want. Use your imagination. When you get done, you have it all filled in and you have your plan done. We're not going to write the story today. We're just going to write the plan today. The last thing you'll need to tell me is if it's going to be a realistic fiction story or a fantasy story. Remember, realistic fiction is a made-up story, but real stuff happens. A fantasy story is a made-up story, but there's things in there that could never, ever, ever be real. So you'll just have to circle if it's realistic fiction or fantasy. So that is all we're doing with our writing plan today. We're just kind of getting real short and filling in the plan. Okay? All right, I cannot wait to see your plans and see what you're going to write about, and then I can't wait to read it when we get all done. We're going to work on actually writing them tomorrow, okay? Today is just kind of the plan, just to see how to get us started, okay? All right, good luck. Bye, guys.